Now, one thing we have done in our Friday night and Thursday night segments, we've had Wilco's Gig Guide, and we've been hearing just over the last couple of years about some of these amazing events like the Big Red Bash, the Monday Bash, the events that are held in regional parts of Australia, some of these fantastic open-air concerts featuring some amazing musicians. And Wilco and our man, the Duck, very much involved in this huge event, Rock the Racecourse, at the Hawkesbury Racecourse. Now, this is tomorrow, so what you need for something like this is a good lineup. You need good weather. You get the thing going, and it could become something that happens every year. And you look at the way that live music has recovered after the horror of the 2 years of the pandemic where everything shut down. Things really are going apace. Well, we've got good weather. We've got a great lineup for this Rock the Racecourse tomorrow. And you only need one name and you'll get a crowd, and that is the great Richard Clapton, who's performing, and he's on the line. Richard, good evening.
Hey, John, how are you?
I'm all right. This is pretty exciting, though. Isn't it a big new venue, a big new event?
It sure is for me, because there hasn't been a lot of activity in Sydney in recent years, not like there used to be back in the day. So this will be great, you know, being on home turf, because I was born in this town, I was brought up in this town, and I guess I'll be in this town forever. So It's great to be able to play on home turf.
So when you perform, I mean, I think you regularly sell at the State Theatre, and they put the name Richard Clapton up, and it sells out pretty quickly. So that's almost home turf for you. But you play at venues like that. But then when you do a big one like this, there's going to be a big crowd. It's open air. The acoustics. What's it like? How different is it to perform at an event like that?
Different to the State Theatre, you mean?
I'm talking about anything. Just doing an open air event like this, and as a performer.
Well, I mean, it's always exciting, because they're usually big crowds and big events, and quite honestly, that's really that's what I do mainly nowadays, is outdoor festivals. And there's a lot of these outdoor festivals. I mean, I guess for older generations, you know, like your 40 plus sort of audience. But yeah, I do heaps of these. I mean, I just heard you before talking about Birdsville Big Red Bash and Monday. I'm doing all of them. So.
I know. How good are they, though? And then they're getting people travelling, and they're, you know, we did. The Duck was on, I think, earlier in the year, and we could hear the music just coming through over. He was just broadcasting about a K away from it. It was amazing.
Mate, the first time I did Birdsville, I think this will be my third time, and I'd never been there before. And you've probably heard it's a very small town, and the actual festival is almost an hour's drive away from the Ecom. Anyway, you drive for hours, for ages and ages, and it looks like the surface of Mars. There's no foliage; it's just red dirt and red dust, and it just seems never ending. Then there's a big rise, and you get up to the top of the rise. So after travelling through no man's land for almost an hour, you get to the top of this rise, and it's 15,000 people just appeared out of nowhere.
Amazing, isn't it?
It's just amazing how they get there.
Yeah. So this is going to be good. They've got the weather, because I guess we could probably do with a bit of rain, but not tomorrow. It's not coming tomorrow. So the weather will be good. There's going to be a good crowd. There's a great lineup as well. Do you get together in the back when there's a lineup like this? How does it work at these music festivals where there's a lot of you performing?
Well, I mean, most of us have been around. You know, most of us almost grown up together. You know, in terms of the music industry. So yeah, like tomorrow. I mean, you know, Eurogliders and the Rads and those sort of bands. I see a lot of them. Last time I think I saw Rick Price was in Nashville about 4 years ago. But yeah, there's always a lot of camaraderie, and it's always a lot of fun. So it's almost like I don't know. It's almost like a rat pack. I'm the only rat in the pack, though.
I know. See, I've just looked at, because you talk about growing up in Sydney, and you had those enormous hits from the 70s, and then you've kept recording. You've kept recording, and you've kept evolving. Your music keeps evolving. You win awards. The critics say, "That's fantastic." The new albums. I mean, a lot of people your age, I'm not that much younger than you, put the feet up and think, "That's it. I'm still going here." What keeps you doing what you're doing?
Oh, look, I could never stop, really, because for me, look, if I retired, I wouldn't know what to do. because music, I was kind of, I remember reading interviews with Jerry Garcia from the Grateful Dead. And Jerry Garcia, it's similar with Keith Richards. You're sort of born to play music. And there's no strategy, and there's no you don't think, oh, how can I get rich and famous in the easiest and quickest, fastest time. You just play music because you have to play music. So look, this is my 50th year. Like the State Theatre.
It's iconic. 50 years. What about that?
Yeah, can you believe that?
Yeah.
But so. Yeah, I did the 50th at the State Theatre in Sydney and another one down at the Palais in Melbourne as well. And it's really quite amazing. I didn't even realise I'd been around for 50 years. But somebody had said something to me about Prussian Blue. I know what this is about. I was going through record contracts because I was trying to wheel and deal a new deal for myself. And I was asked for copies of my contracts. I looked at the 1973 contract, which encompasses Girls on the Avenue and Capricorn Dancer, and it said June the 6th. I signed on June the 6th, 1973, and I went, Jesus, 50 years. Honestly, I only just realised it then. I went, whoa. So I jumped on the phone and go, I've got to do my 50th, man.
See, we had the great Jimmy Webb on the show last night, and I was asking him about some of the songs that he wrote, and he still sounds like almost like a surprised kid that he could have done and produced lines like he's got in Wichita Lineman. And you'd be in the car often, you'd hear Capricorn Dancer or some of these great hits or Girls on the Avenue. Do you still sort of, even 50 years on, go, sure, I wrote that? Where did that come from? It's because it's amazing. Because in such a crowded field where so many people are trying to do something, you produce a gem that's still so good 50 years on.
Look, it's funny you should say that because I've only just come off the boat, literally. I went on my first cruise ever to New Zealand, playing on a ship, in other words. Anyway, it was a P&O ship, and Danny, my guitar player, Danny Spencer, who's been with me a long while, we were out on the deck, and he went, look at this. I said, get on the deck chair, I've got to take your photo. So anyway, Danny did. He took a few photos of me. I put them on Facebook yesterday, and I just put it up, and I just said, what does this remind you of? Now, I've had thousands of people flooding in because it's the Great Escape cover. That's what we were copying. It's all because it was the same ship, same everything. Anyway, to answer your question, it's really sort of humbling in a way. Just the way people were talking about the various songs, especially Best Years of Our Lives and I'm an Island, that were on the Great Escape album. And I don't know, my fans, I think, dig a lot deeper, possibly, than your average music fan. So it was really... Man, I had so much feedback in the last couple of days about the various songs on the Great Escape. So it's really a great life because who could ask for anything more to be able to be a creative person, but not just creative, but you're getting feedback. I'm constantly getting people being very supportive and really really good and understanding what it is I'm doing.
Yeah, I don't want to embarrass myself because I probably will, because I've got a mate of mine who lives, and I grew up in the area around Rose Bay, and there's a road I go down, and I always think to myself that I'd heard the story that this was the street where the girls lived on the avenue, and I think if I ask him on here, he's going to say, oh, no, it wasn't that at all. Can you tell me again about the girls on the avenue?
John, it's true.
Aha!
Now, look, what happened is... look, it's probably too long for your program. I'll try and abbreviate it. You just hit the nail on the head. The song really is about girls, three pretty girls that lived on the avenue, Rose Bay. And my housemate, Colin, and I lived in Challenger Avenue, next street along. Now, Festival Records were going to drop me because my first album, Prussian Blue, did really well critically. But unfortunately didn't sell many copies. So I was sort of given an ultimatum to come up with a radio-friendly hit single. And I can hear John going, yeah, too right. And I was resisting at first because I was very young and pretty naive and probably pretty pretentious, and I just really wanted to be a really serious songwriter. I mean, I really didn't want to be a pop star. However, I finally succumbed. Colin, I'm abbreviating this so much. I mean, because there was so much controversy going on at Festival, the record company. But Colin had been going behind their back and speaking to Ron and Marius, who founded Double J, and he became Double J's first music programmer. And that's the first time I've ever been on the right side of corruption. It was great because Colin had a big fight with Festival Records and said, "You can't fire me because I quit, and I'm going to be the first programmer on Double J." Anyway, played Girls on the Avenue once on the hour, every hour. You guys heard it, picked it up, started playing it, and the rest is history. There you go.
The rest is history. The rest is history, yeah. I always wonder, because when you get to your 60s and your 70s, you think back to because I went to my school reunion last weekend, and you start to think to yourself, are my memories of something as it was, or have I sort of made it up? And you start to compare notes with people, and you realise, yeah, actually, I was right. I did remember that correctly. So there you go. You have got such a huge array of music. How do you work out what to play when you go to an event like this one?
Please. You know, I'll tell you what, the State Theatre, one year at the State Theatre, I'd say it'd be 5-6 years ago, and at those sort of concerts, and like State Theatre holds 2,000 people, and I sell it out. And one year, the promoter wanted me to do songs by request. So we put it out on the database so people could request their favourite songs. But anyway, so the State Theatre, I do a short acoustic set before intermission. Then we have an intermission. We come back on with a full rock band sort of thing. This year, there were people who'd been voting for their favourite song, and during the first set, the acoustic set, which is, it's supposed to be pretty quiet, and people were yelling out for their favourite songs. So we had a 25-minute intermission. I got my calculator out, and I came back for the second set, and the first thing I said was, look, I hear you all, but I just got my calculator out. I've recorded 264 songs, and I worked out that if I was going to play every song I've ever recorded, we would be here for, I think I said 2.1 days or something, two whole days. And 2,000 people go, yeah, let's go. And I said, no. Beauty, kill me.
Dear me. Hey, I've got a text message here from Steve. I don't know how early this might have been. The West Ride Tavern. He said he went to a show with you at the West Ride Tavern. He said it was me, my mate, and our two girlfriends. It was a very small crowd. I don't know whether that was early on or what. Have you had a situation where if you build it, they will come, where you think, well, where are they here tonight? In the early days, particularly, it would have been like that as a performer.
I guess so. That one I don't remember at all. I don't really remember any gigs that I ever did where it was really light on. Not many people.
Steve's memory might be playing up like mine does sometimes.
Well, it could do, because look, the way I started, and I think your listeners should hear this, because I think it's something that's sadly lacking in Australia, in Australian culture or subculture. There was a wine bar on Oxford Street called French's Wine Bar. Now, I went in there, and there was only a couple of blues bands that used to do residencies there. Now, I went into French's Wine Bar with that band that played on Girls on the Avenue, Red McKelvey on guitar, etc., and we were so poor, like we didn't have a PA. I had a microphone going into one channel on my guitar amp. So we started out playing with about 10 people, and then, it went pretty well. Anyway, look, to cut a long story short, each week we'd get a few more people and a few more people. About 6 or 7 months later, and it was a really nice summer, we had them lined up around the block. And in other words, we'd just outgrown French's. But, I think French's, it had about 250 people it could hold. Now, the thing is that back in the day, you could gain traction if you were really that good and you really believed in what you were doing. People would come and hear you, and they'd come back and they'd bring their friends, and it would grow and grow and grow and grow. Now, these days, what I'm finding a bit sad is that element with Australians doesn't really exist anymore. For me, it's become a bit false. It's a bit of a I don't know. It seems to be a lot of thousands and thousands of acts all wanting to be rich and famous. But and those thousands and thousands of young acts just can't get any traction. Because they keep playing around these little bars for 20 or 40 people or something. So it's a bit sad that, because if you, look, further to what I just said about French's Wine Bar, after me came Cold Chisel when they first came from Adelaide. They did the same thing, built up this huge crowd where the venue just was too, becomes too small for you. And Midnight Oil, Midnight Oil is still mates of mine, as is Chisel, and sometimes we talk about those days. So it's a bit of a shame, like that golden age of Oz rock. I was about to say a little while ago, there's a bit of a group of us, like Russell Morris, Darryl Braithwaite, Ross Wilson, Joe Camilleri, etc., etc. And I think we're keeping that spirit alive because we're still out there. As I said, we mainly do big outdoor festivals. I don't do a lot of little pubs these days. I still do, but
good on you, mate. Well, thank you for doing it on behalf of all of us. Annie says on the email here she saw you in April at the State Theatre. You were fantastic. So, of course, we know that. Beautiful. Can I just ask, I'm talking to Richard Clapton. He's on tomorrow at Rock the Racecourse at the Hawkesbury Racecourse, the first of what we hope is going to be many years of this huge event. But I just want to finish up just this question, because I know all the things you've done. You went and recorded in Nashville. I'm always fascinated by this idea that Nashville is this nirvana that artists like to go and record at, a bit like Abbey Road, I suppose. Is there something about Nashville that sets it apart?
Oh, it's a really quick, easy answer. There are musicians there. Like, I had this guy, Dan Dugmore, playing on my album. My album's called The House of Orange. And when I met Dan, we were just in this little studio in Nashville. Like Mark Moffat was my producer, and Mark's originally a Queenslander, but he's been in Nashville for about 35 years or more. But you play with someone like Dan Dugmore. Dan has done 10 James Taylor albums, 10 Jackson Browne albums. He played on Linda Ronstadt's Blue by River, etc. I could go on and on.
It's a good answer. Well, I think we've just got it, haven't we? Now.
Well, there's your answer.
There you go. Hey, mate, enjoy tomorrow, and we should talk again. I'd love to get you in the studio one day and have a little bit of a longer chat and play some music. You're going to do Deep Water tomorrow, because that's the one I'd be putting on my list.
No, I won't do it.
Really?
Okay.
Right.
I'm kidding you. When am I ever going to do a gig and not do Deep Water?
Thank you. Good on you, mate. Have a great day tomorrow. Thanks, Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks a lot.
There is a lot of you love Richard Clapton. I see so many of you who have talked about shows that you've seen going back as far as 1974. What a performer, and he's still going strong.